Welcome back, everyone, to 1 Million Minds. How are you doing, Balaji?
Doing great, Rajni. Nice to see you.
It is beautiful summer. We're enjoying it. There's so much as usual happening in our AI world. Just a lot of things happening in the world, I should say, but AI
Right.
world. And I mean, it's just interesting how things have changed in the last couple of weeks about, just the when it comes to AI or crypto. I know we don't talk about politics here, but just saying a lot of things as investors or entrepreneurs that you should be aware of and where the world is going so you can kind of plan for it. So that's, I think, it's like the broader theme that I want to talk through today is we see now two camps coming up on every issue, and I just wanted to bounce some things off you, some topics, and see where we as a team land on some of these ideas. So saying that, I want to talk about the AI chip. I know they're very expensive, right? And that a lot of VCs now still have some are on two sides of it right now. Companies like Nvidia thriving. We've talked about it. The more their pipelines are full for a whole year, and the more margins they make, not just Nvidia, right? Any business, the more margins you have, then competitors will come in. So you do have a first mover's advantage for a few years, but then if there's such high margin, such high demand, other competitors are going to come in and erode the margins a little bit. Some people are willing to take 80% of the product at 50% of the price, whatever, right? So those are the things that are going to happen, but not anytime soon. But there are other competitors coming. So even though companies like Nvidia are thriving, because as we talked through, uh, CPU based cloud is being replaced by GPU based cloud systems. So there's a lot of infrastructure play. Uh, VCs are doing that. Companies are doing that. They're all hoarding it because they all want their own. They don't want to be dependent on somebody to do this. So my real question is, even like a A16Z, they are hoarding this. I don't say hoarding. They are accumulating chips to hand out a piecemeal to their investment companies. And then the other side, Sequoia is preaching caution because I think we have enough chips. Let's see if there's really they almost have equated to like a Charmin in a pandemic. People are just holding like there's no tomorrow. More things are coming. Let's work on actual companies that are making revenue to justify these investments, right? So that's where the business or a couple of big VCs are. I would say split. They have different opinions about where we are. What do you take on it? What do you think where we are with this?
Well, I'll start with the second portion. That's the meme that goes around in the Twitter these days, saying, "Hey, internet may be just a fad." This is again in 2000, British Daily Mail, I believe. So I think to an extent, yes, it seems like a lot of people are trying to build it and they'll come type of take approach like that, right? And it is
Mhm.
true in many aspects because the people are trying to see where the productivity is. I'll go back to the first one. I think the scarcity, and I see technically, I think this is going to evolve out where Nvidia definitely has the first mover advantage, and you have everybody else developing their own custom um, processor. They call it NPU or XPU or Amazon, Intel. All of these guys are still working on it, right? So I think as the competition comes in there, I think the build out becomes much more easier and cost effective, giving access to everybody to build on it. But now the VCs have access to the funds and they're getting these GPUs to allocate to their own investments or firms, right? That they are incubating. That seems to make sense because they want to get the early mover advantage there, right? And whoever has the GPU has the first mover right now because of scarcity.
Yes, they definitely have developed a GPU bank for startups. I think anything a pitch that used to have well, not even a year ago, Web3 or crypto was the hottest thing, but now everything and everybody companies an AI company. So it's interesting though. So I like that. I mean, these are not cheap, right? These are like 10,000, 40,000, 50,000 chips. So it's not like a PC that you buy and within 3 months they completely go out of
Right.
style, right? So you have a brand new chip came in. So what Nvidia is doing and other companies who are manufacturing, they're building some lock-ins because Chip is just one piece of it. Right? There's a software that has to be layered, that has to be on top of it to be able to build applications on top. So it's not like tomorrow I can just throw the chip away and a competitor's chip I can put there, because now you need a software that's optimizing the competitor's chip. So I feel like these are have a little bit more life or longevity compared to like regular CPU that has become more of a commodity. I'm talking about short term, right? Long term, who knows? Everything is going to be more of a commodity. But if you are an investor, now you're telling the companies, hey, you're going to spend a lot of money on your GPU and the electricity behind it, along with the investment, or even without cash, I can give you that as an investment. If you come to us, you don't have to worry about waiting on it. It's a unique angle. I feel like it actually could work, but does it? Are we overdoing it? So I think that's where your meme made a lot of sense. Is there's one side which didn't think internet was even going to be a thing in the dial-up age, but as we just look back in our past, we can see that when we had the dial-up modem, you and I have used it.
Yeah,
We never
yeah,
even thought about video. Right? Images took forever to render on the screen. At that point, we like, why are people spending so much money laying these infrastructure, cables, and everything when nobody's barely using it? It was like 5% was getting used, but
correct.
nobody could project it's gonna help like a YouTube or a Facebook. Everything was so. If you didn't have that, none of these apps would have been built. So I feel like, yes, as an investor, I'll be very scared about the money I've invested. But as an entrepreneur and somebody who's in the space, this gives you so many opportunities for apps and um, new businesses that we don't even know how we could use the infrastructure. So I feel like we can make a decision about it right now. But 5, 10 years from now, we still don't have any valuables. We don't have an Amazon. We don't have a Facebook. Yes, then this is all for nothing. But I'm a techno optimist, so I feel like we can't see everything. But as it stands now, if you take a snapshot in time, $700 billion investment in infrastructure, and we don't have a lot to show for it. There is definitely a big delta to be covered.
Right. I think one of the things you want to compare and contrast, Rajni, I mean, think about, I mean, the only parallel I can draw is how they built out the blockchain, right? I think when you started, they made these chips, and then the complexity of the problem kept increasing, right? Whatever the Bitcoin mining or whatever, the difficulty kept increasing, and they had to bring more powerful and more powerful chip. Even in that case, I think because it's kind of a currency, they made money and they figured out the math and stuff like that. But if you bring it back to the the GPUs and NPUs of the thing that they are producing. My question is, are these complexities going to grow? Yes, there's some aspect of we want to tackle some difficult problems that we never had the opportunity. But I think there is a sweet spot where there's a lot of these problems that is in between the CPU and the very high end GPU that is going to materialize. That's where it makes sense as an investment, because you want it for a long. You put the infrastructure in place and let people come in and stitch these solutions with the existing infrastructure while we do this next generation of complex computing or whatever that is needed to get to wherever we want to get to. We don't know what that is, sci-fi stuff, right? So it makes sense. I think it's a kind of investment. It's not like you dump a whole lot of money on the hardware and then it's going to get phased out within a few months, right? Because there's still a lot of productive work that can be extracted, and it's waiting for builders to come in, the entrepreneurs to come in and stitch those solutions together.
Agree. But I guess just to kind of wrap this thought, right? So I think right now the biggest company making any money in this space, I mean, you can say Facebook is also technically an AI company, but at this point, but it's not using LLM. So that's really, they have their own thing for media and ad placement. That's where it is. But at the end of the day, at this point, if the numbers are accurate, we need about $600 billion increase in revenue because of even the top 7 companies and other companies that have invested so much in the space. And we have OpenAI projected, or 3.4 billion is what it's very good money, but it's not 600 billion. I think that's the amount we need to make from all these investments to make it worth the ROI. So we're not there yet, but a lot of people are using it. For example, Microsoft LinkedIn study, they found that a lot of people are using their teams, their co-pilots, but most folks are just mooching off of free chatbots. So there's a lot of open AI at Google. Even my son was using Gemini for a write up he had this summer. But for us to see some serious impact to the bottom line, we have to check back in a year or two, because if we can keep investing at this clip and we do not have any value add or game changing company or startups or ideas that come out of it, we're in trouble, right? So because
Right.
entire S&P 500 has been propped up by AI investment at this point. Go ahead.
Right. I think we are getting a glimpse of the multimodal aspect of things. I think that's where I think real impact people are going to start connecting, right? Like from text, now we are going to move to audio and video and photos and other
That's
modalities of
true.
interaction, right? And again, yes, granted, it's not fully there. These systems don't read your emotions or interact properly, but these are getting built right now. So in the future or the near future, probably the modality of how we interact with the systems is going to have a completely different interface, right? And that's what at least I believe, that's going to bring me into paying more, because now I have discovered a completely new way, just like the iPad revolution or iPhone revolution or touch screens, right? Now we are going to have this camera taking care of everything. Just you can just sit there and express things in the natural way, right? That probably will bring in some more people.
Correct. I think we need some ease of use for it to cross the chasm, right? Because a lot of early adopters, whether it's kids or people who are on the cutting edge, are using it. But for it to become mainstream and everybody and basically replace workflow, it needs to be easier interface to use. Yes, to your point, chat is okay, but it's not as natural as a voice or just having a conversation like you and me having.
Correct.
If you can get it to this interface working, I feel like the adoption and actual reality of using some of these will improve, right?
Yep.
So I agree with you. And I think talking about this, we talked about the infrastructure, we talked about where we are, but now let's switch topics to, or at least switch to, say, hey, let's see some use cases. I have some ideas, but I want to talk about one that OpenAI and Thrive Global are launching Thrive AI, an AI-powered health coaching app. And Arya Huffington talked about the vision of it. It's a hyper-personalized AI coach, which is trained on peer-reviewed science and fault. So it helps with the behavioral change tricks called micro steps. So it taps into daily habits, tailored nudges, which like Facebook does. Hey, somebody mentioned you, come back here. So some those behavioral changes are one of the toughest things to do, but there is science behind it. So OpenAI, Startup Fund, and Thrive Global are funding this company. This will be a mobile app which will have enterprise offerings too. But anyway, it's going to have a long-term memory. So I feel like personal trainers and life coaches, all this is, we've talked about it multiple times, but there's some money being spent into actually doing something in the healthcare space. And I think the lesser hallucination, the better memory gets. These are going to be real use cases, right? So we are seeing some glimpses, like you said, of potential use cases that could be impacting us very soon.
Right. I think if you talk about health coaching and in
Mhm.
particular anything personal, right? I think there's the personal AI revolution that's happening right now, and part of this nonprofit group. Why? So that's
Mhm.
another angle to look at it, right? Like how much of users' personal data they're willing to share. Granted, I think the previous generation brought a lot of biomedical instrumentation devices into your life. So maybe there's already a whole bunch of the treasure trove of data that they can actually look into and start making these suggestions for you for health coaching, right? And I think that's only a small percentage, but they need to get more personal and they need to know. So I think this is where I think that the technology is pushing its boundary towards to me it's getting into my house, getting into my personal space type of situation, right? So how do we do that in a much more non-combative way, right? We had to have some measures in place. I think that's another thing, policies and governmental rules and regulations type of thing. But yeah, I think it's all interesting to see how it's one side it's infrastructure, the other side is trying to get into your life as much as possible, try to learn more.
That is true. We might well as kiss our privacy goodbye at this point, right? So it's that's but there is a that's a bad side. The flip side to it is you wear a Apple Watch. You now the ring, the Aura rings are available. I see a lot of people wearing the glucose, continuous glucose monitors, whether you have
Monitors, right?
diabetes or not. They're monitoring, right? So you have all these inputs, but that's where it stops, right? There's some recommendation, but imagine being able to send all of this into your personalized AI or assistant or healthcare assistant, and your data just stays within this box,
Right,
hopefully. But let's
right.
just let's just go with me. Let's just assume that happens. Imagine the wealth of information that can come out of it, right? Just saying, hey, your sugar's spiking, you played today, whatever, right? Just putting your sleep, everything together. Ideally, that would be an amazing coach, especially the older you get. Diet is the most important thing. You can work out as much as you want. I work out more, but I'm gaining weight. I'm like, what do I do? Right. So those are kind of questions that if you had a personalized person you can talk to and somebody who doesn't judge you, that's even better. So it'll be good to have that. So the infrastructure is there. We've been collecting data for a while, but now adding an AI intelligence, I mean, intelligent assistant to it feels like a natural progression and feels like it'll add a lot of value. But it's to be seen how well this all executes now.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. I mean, the goodness of all of this is trying to get to your personal information targeted. Maybe your insurance comes down because now they know. So there's a lot of, but it
Mhm.
has to be done the right way because we have seen this. Like it'll start that way, but it'll end up in a different way where your information is shared across everywhere, and then everything goes up in cost, and then now you end up sharing your personal information and eventually pay double the price for whatever reason we don't know, right? And this, yeah, you don't want to go that way because now it's getting more and more personal information. So I'm like cautiously optimistic in a lot of these things just to see how they evolve out. Yeah, it starts with a good
Okay.
intention, but eventually something takes.
Everything starts with a good intention. I agree. All right, but now I want to switch a little bit different. So I have three ideas I've been thinking about because in real life it's happening right now as I'm looking at some options. I'm going to give you three ideas. You haven't heard this before, or you might have, but I want to get your initial take on it and let's just jam on it, right? So just to see.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
these are all in the I'll call it in the consumer space and a little bit into the enterprise, but I'll start with some of the consumer space. Okay. So as you know, there's a lot of layoffs happening right now. A lot of people who are working in companies will have Cobra to support them for 6 months, and then they're kind of on their own. So I had a friend of mine who just called me yesterday. Said his wife lost her job, but their whole family was on her insurance, and then he's a consultant, so he doesn't have insurance. I said okay, and then we're all looking at it. So what happens if the spouse that has the insurance loses job? What do you do, right? My God,
Gotcha.
there's nothing clear about this whole thing. And it's super expensive. I didn't ever think about it because I was always had insurance through my company. But I'm not kidding. If you want to go get insurance as a family of four, and if you wanted to go do something, there's gold, silver, bronze, all kinds of nonsense. But the bottom line is, you're looking about between $2,000 to $3,000 a month for
Wow.
health insurance for me to replace what I have right now. Does that make sense?
Okay, that's a lot.
So
Okay.
that's a setup, right? So as a consultant, like let's say everybody's like, go be a consultant. These are things you don't even think about. I never thought about it. So this is an interesting option. So the other side is where do you find this information? I went to Reddit. There's healthcare marketplaces, and then if you make below a certain amount, you get Obamacare, like that kind of care. But then if you make more, you're not qualified for this. But if you have a good health, there are agents that can help you reduce your cost by 30-40%. Is such a nebulous I mean, there's so much opportunity because there's where I think AI can help personally is where there's information kind of all over the place. Can you put it all together and do this? Because right now, when there are agents or middlemen in there, all they do is taking information and making money out of it, right? So that's what I'm. It could be people who are over 60 who just lost it. They have Medicare. They also have to ensure my in-laws are looking for insurance, they are overwhelmed with the options, right? There's no easy way. So that's my take. This, I just want to set that up. I don't know if you've done any research on it, but it's super expensive, so much information all over the place, no easy way to look at it. I feel like it's a great opportunity for not just one, a lot of startups in the space to be able to consolidate and be like an advisor, right? But who's paying for it? How will they get paid? Those are the kind of things we talk about. But just wanted to get your initial thoughts on it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I hear this, I think, especially in terms of healthcare and insurance in general, right? I think the cost I can think about, maybe if you are taking this and say, hey, extend it one more level, where say, if some information that's available through AI and it's provided to an insurance agency that can better underwrite, this cost can come down. That's one way to look at it, right? And maybe there's a innovation waiting to happen there to get all that information to the insurance company so they can actually underwrite better, because everybody's underwriting based on whatever the information they're collecting currently in the way they are
Mm-hmm.
collecting, right? So the second aspect of it is educating or giving information to the people who are looking for these options, right? And I think that's already proven out that you can have a personalized AI system where you can query locally, or even set it up on the cloud, where it has a treasure trove of knowledge that it has ingested and accumulated, where it can answer questions to get to your option that works for you. And that's one other way. The third way is a nice compromise I can think of. I recently had opportunity to look at a product called Double, right, where you don't take the entire approach of feed the machine and let it spit out. You can always create a standardized form of Q&A that can be passed down to the experts who can actually answer from the other side, right? So it cuts down the response time. So, and it also cheapens the cost, where you don't have to actually sit in front and talk to a person to provide you with a bunch of options. These are the things that come to my mind. I think in all these aspects, people can definitely benefit, just AI assisted
I
or
mean, as you're
fully.
talking through
Yeah,
that, yeah, it makes sense. As you're talking through that, it makes sense. Like I'm always in my head, I was thinking about, okay, you don't send your personal information, but what if you can bucket saying these, like in when it comes to credit rating, there's subprime, there's prime, there's excellent credit. So
correct.
if we get a pool of families that are excellent health, can you give them a different right now? And then another pool, we know their pre-existing conditions, but we're not going to know every one of them. But as a group, can you give them something, right? It's a risk mitigation thing, right, for the companies too. So
Right. And it's also very difficult, especially healthcare. I've lived in the States for nearly 25 years, and it's not shared among multiple doctors or hospitals. And there is no one place to go get anything, right?
correct.
So it makes the job that much difficult, and they have to do an independent assessment of you to provide any healthcare, right? And that's the. I don't think that's getting disrupted anytime soon, because some hospitals are trying to integrate your data, but some are not. It's a big mess. So I don't know how much
It is
efficiency.
a
Yeah.
it is a big pain point, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for the entrepreneurs who are listening to this to at least look under one more layer to make some decisions about it. So
Yeah, I
there's a
think
couple more we can.
you own your medical records. That's probably one way to do it, right? Whenever you go to doctor, you get
Correct.
that, and it exists in your system. Now you can use that to shop around. That might absolutely work. But who, as a patient, how rigorous are you, right? You're not going to collect it, so it has to come to you every time somehow. And there's definitely ways people can innovate to do that.
Yeah, there's an aggregation play, there's a analysis play, and then there's definitely a consulting play where you don't have to go to a specialist every time, just like a lawyer assistance as sometimes as important, and even a registered nurse can. There's so much opportunity here that I'm blown away. Even for the $2,000, $3,000 a month insurance, your deductible is like $10,000 to $20,000 as a family. I'm like,
Hmm.
who can afford this? I don't understand. So a lot of people are choosing. I went into Reddit. I went into the whole rabbit hole. They're choosing to not to be insured because to them it's cheaper to go see a doctor because they're healthy enough
When
and
there's
pay
need,
out of
yeah.
pocket rather than own $2,000 insurance. So anyway, I didn't even know this is an issue. It's a brewing issue underneath, and I think we need to somehow find some solutions for it. So moving on. sports analytics. So this is a big thing. Football season is coming up. Used to be big into the daily fantasy. I stopped because I was got into AI. I've been focused on it, but it's coming up. I think I told you this. I did just an Excel based program that I had that was right about 65% of the time, and that's how much you have to be right to actually make money after the house takes a little spread. So the bottom line is there's so much opportunity in the analytics. I'm just talking about football as one, but to be able to, because a company came up for sale, they've been losing revenue. I was wondering why. They had a proprietary projection, or were they based on the spread they were giving codes, but I guess it's not doing as well. So the revenues are going down, they're coming up for sale. It just didn't look very attractive, but made me think about, okay, what can we do? What can LM do or AI do well is crunching all these numbers from various sources and giving you ideas, right?
Right.
So it is an amazing opportunity, whether you're a daily fantasy player or somebody who's in the NBA or NFL, can they use this and how are they using it? So I'll pause. I know you're not a big sportsman, but the analytics part of it, I'm pretty sure is interesting to you.
Oh, absolutely. I think when we think about number crunching or taking a lot of data points and trying to find needle in a haystack type of situation, I think that's where these systems excel. Again, I don't know what the cost would be depending on the size of data. That's where I think it would be. Earlier we spoke about, is anyone making money? They might find something, but the question is how much is it worth finding that money? So that need to be
Absolutely.
evaluated, right? But in a betting type of industry, maybe there is opportunities.
Absolutely. Okay, last one. This is mostly, I think I sent you. So this is most of the. I don't know how much you know about the OpenAI marketplace. There's a lot of people offering their what do you call that? Their product for there, but I don't know if anybody's actually making money. I don't know the answer to that. But this is one of them. This is Chat PRD. This person developed it over a couple of weekends. How to so peer product it's a product manager. That's what PRDs. They write PRDs. Product managers write PRDs, which is a product review document. Or so.
Requirement,
Anyway, they do.
requirement, yeah.
Sorry, what is it?
Product requirement documents.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, product requirements. Okay, product requirement document. So sometimes you have to like take the roadmap and be able to write it. And every time you develop a new release, you have to write these. So this whole thing helps them. A tool, if you give it the roadmap, give it some pointers, it creates PRDs for you. Okay, that's what that is. So I was thinking about what are other things that has a lot of administrative, which is a project manager, program manager roles I've done before. Are there opportunities similar to this where you give it some templates and say, hey, this is a new project, this is what we're trying to accomplish? Can it create a project charter? Can it create project documentation? Not get you 100% there, but 60-70% is almost repeat, copy and paste, and you never start from a blank thing, but it's very focused on this. She's doing really well. So what are your thoughts on other opportunities that are very narrow focused, but you kind of train the model and it really doesn't hallucinate and it gives you some suggestions? So I was thinking project manager, program manager. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we early on when we visited where people are tackling or are actually inserting AI to get some productivity boost, right? Like it started with content writing, and then it evolved into some of these niche product managers, right? I think there was a wave of what's going to happen to product managers now that AI is trying to take away our jobs and it's going to write requirement documents. Now I have gone through this in my mind, like even if I, because we are startup guys, and if you're, it might help
Mhm.
early on, but I don't think you can eliminate any of these people because every time you involve a human, there's a slight variation here, a decision point there that actually helps putting these things together to, because you have to work very closely with the people who are actually coming up with these ideas, right? This is merely a way to come to an agreement, sort of, right? If you take the use case where something has been said in a meeting and something is written down, and now everybody has to agree on it and move on to the next meeting. This is where I think a lot of wasted hours can be gained, right? How many meetings have you sat through, and the next meeting is like, oh, I didn't say that, or you didn't say that, or whatever it is. So I think that's one of the use cases I can think of when you think of all these use cases where it can save time coming to the agreement of what has been decided, right? Be it a product requirement or some other requirement or whatever it is for project managers. Um, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think maybe this is a good thing. People probably will like meetings again, right? Because people typically hate meetings. They sit there and it goes on and on and on. And again, next meeting is about the same thing again, and with a little twist here and there.
That's true. We can definitely improve efficiency, but to your point, I don't think it is. I would consider this as a replacement. I would consider it as an assistant or a project assistant. Apparently, in a full-fledged project manager role, there's a project assistant who does more of the administrative work, because 60% of a project manager program is administrative work. But if you can get that done by somebody, even 50% there, and to your point, there's always a human in the loop, kind of bringing it to completions, validating. And if you have an assistant or a junior person doing this, you'll still review it, and the junior gets better every day. I see
Right.
opportunities as everybody having a personalized assistant for the role that you're doing that helps you with some of the grunt work, right? I see that's where it's going. I don't see it replacing anytime soon, but I feel like there's a lot of value for sure.
Right. To answer your question, which specific areas, right? I always tend to look at, okay, content writing is too generic. Then you can say technical content writing, because with certain vocabulary inserted, you can start spinning out some specific
Mhm.
technicalities or in a particular field, right? And that's where because we are software guys, we talk about product requirement to actually high level design, low level design, whatever. We continue to go down the path and eventually start writing code. You can already see every one of these is touched a little to bring some more velocity to what you do, right? And I think the same exists as long as you take some writing AI writing skill and tag along a specific vocabulary, right? Be it legal, be it whatever highly technical job, or I think it immediately becomes a useful thing, because now you don't need to train someone on the vocabulary, right, to get up to speed and come up with that stuff. So along those lines, I think every industry is this is just a moniker, a product officer, but they can benefit from a lot of the things that AI has to offer. But yeah, you have to train them,
Absolutely.
come up with that particular
Uh,
vocabulary.
That is absolutely right. There's definitely an evolution as you get the vocabulary, right? That's even though we're all speaking English, each one of these verticals has their own language. So I know we can keep jamming on more ideas, but I think these three were good. I'll try to come up with some for our next session. But until then, thank you, Balaji. See you guys next time.
All right, cool. Thanks, Rajni.